Good morning and welcome to week two. I want to talk today about the inherent instability of credit, which seems to be a feature of the system and is probably the most distressing feature and has led to very many proposals, some of which have been discussed in the forum in the last week or two, and also in part one of this course. Some idea that a way to control the inherent instability of credit, this tendency of the system to go into bubbles and then to go into crashes. A way to control that might be to control money, because all credit is a promise to pay money. So if we could control money in some way, perhaps we could control credit. This is the grand thought. Now, one of the challenges of doing this is that money in a modern system is a hybrid entity. There's state money, like green pieces of paper, currency, liabilities of the Fed. There's private money, the liabilities of the banking system. And in developed economies today, there's also non-bank money, shadow money. It's a hybrid entity. So what is it that you want to control here? So some proposals say, well, the whole problem that is leading to this instability is in fact a hybridity. And so what we should do is to get rid of all of these except one. And people have different favorites. Some say that it's the state money that's the problem, and that we should just eliminate central banking and focus on private banking. The instability comes from the machinations of the state. Other people say the opposite. The problem is fractional reserve banking. It's private money that's the problem. And certainly today, there's many people who say it's shadow money that's the problem. And if we could just outlaw that in some way, everything would be fine. That's one class of proposals. And personally, I think that this hybridity is pretty deep piece of the system, and is pretty difficult to get rid of, and actually has some positive features as well. Probably you don't want to get rid of all of it, but you need to live with it, and you need to manage the monetary system having in mind its hybridity. That's the first class of sort of radical proposals. The second, there's some idea that maybe if we were to replace or augment the existing monetary system with some outside anchor, like gold. If we made all money promises to pay gold or silver or something like that, that would create a discipline that would discipline money and therefore discipline credit. That's another thought. Historically, we had that and we got rid of it because it didn't actually seem to eliminate the instability. Credit still fluctuated quite a bit. And in fact, on the downside, this discipline of the gold standard proved often to make things worse rather than better. So I think that ultimately there's nothing for it, but that we face the reality of our lives, which is that we are having to manage this hybrid monetary system. The classic way of managing this that comes from Bagehot and the tradition that builds on him is thinking about manipulating the money rate of interest in order to somehow create discipline when there's too much elasticity, create elasticity when there's too much discipline. This is the classic. The challenge that we're facing with this classic idea today is what I want to bring to your attention, which is that the monetary system today, more than it's been for 100 years, is international. That it's a globalized system, so that what one country does very much influences what happens in other countries, and what other countries do influence what happens in my country. So the ability to manage money is now something that should be at the level of the global system, but the institutions for that global management are very underdeveloped because all of the monetary management institutions are basically national. That's one problem. This problem we're going to really confront this week with the theory of foreign exchange. And I would say, just a preview of coming attractions, probably this week the lecture material is more challenging than previous weeks. But that's why we need to confront this basic feature of the modern system and confront it squarely. The second feature of the modern system that adds extra layer of challenge to this problem of managing money is the rise of modern capital markets, and particularly the sophistication of modern finance and the integration of those capital markets with money markets. We'll be dealing with that in a few weeks. That's the issue of shadow money. The way to manage shadow money, we basically don't know. This is virgin territory for us, and it's very urgent territory, clearly. It was the collapse of the shadow banking system that caused the financial crisis of 2007 to 2009. And until we figure out how to manage that system, we're going to continue having instability at the international level. So those are my thoughts for today, and stick with it. This was a challenging week, but I think if we get through this, it will be a big payoff.